one particular work that one of my PhD student is doing in collaboration with Dr. Soumen Bagh in IIT ISM Dhanbad. So this topic is on penning differentiation for handwritten document forensics, and we are discussing here today because it's one of the applications of machine learning. I understand this is a machine learning workshop that all of you are attending today here. So I'll start with a question to you. So in your screen, you can see a check image, bank check image, right? So by looking at it, can you conclude whether the check has been tampered or not, whether the physical check leaf was tampered or not? As all of you can see this check image, bank check image in your screen. So by looking at these contents of the check image like pay name or rupee, can you conclude whether this check image is manipulated or not, or tampered or not? I'm not speaking about image tampering, I'm speaking about tampering the physical check leaf itself, the way traditional check fraud occurs in banks. So I want some response from my participants. Otherwise, okay, anyone is typing in the screen. Anyway, the chat I'm not able to see simultaneously.
He has written,
one of
can't
you,
be judged.
Oh.
No, sir. Can't find out any such tampering while looking into it.
So while I request the participants to interact verbally if possible from your side, because otherwise I have to keep toggling between my presentation and the chat window. Okay. So one of you is saying that by looking at it, it cannot be judged, right? So any other answers from any one of you?
Parthasarathi has written, it is tampered, I think. The account number is not in the right place. So I request all the participants, you please communicate verbally if not a problem. Otherwise, toggling between the slides and the meeting screen is a bit difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. So let's see. So these are the portions which have been added in the physical check leaf letter. So originally the check leaf was issued to Ravi Kumar Singh with amount 70,000 rupees. So it has gone to a wrong hand, and using a similar color pen or similar color ink, the fraudster has added the J here at the initial and the 2 lakh amount, as well as he has added 2 here. Okay. So this is the thing. Now, as you have rightly said, these kind of frauds will be committed so professionally that by looking at the check leaf, we will not be able to charge correctly, right? So that's the topic of today's discussion, actually, penning differentiation. Can we differentiate the pennings using algorithms? Right. So when we speak about forensics, what is forensics? So basically, any crime happens, then investigators start forensic analysis, right? So forensics basically refer to collection, retention, and analysis of scientific evidence during course of crime investigation. So different kinds of crimes and different kinds of artifacts associated with the crime, and depending on what crime it is, whether it's cyber crime or some physical crime. So based on the different kinds of artifacts can be found, and forensic analysis normally deals with collection, retention, and analysis of those kind of scientific evidences. So when we speak about handwritten document forensics, specifically in the context of this talk, so handwritten document forensics, as we understand now, that there is some fraud has been committed by tampering handwritten documents. Right, documents once again can be of 2 types: printed documents and handwritten documents. Here we are speaking about handwritten documents. Bank check leaf, demand drafts, or maybe some other kind of, even someone leaves a note about committing the crime and so on. So those kind of handwritten notes also should be analyzed by the investigating agencies. Right? And today there are some tools available in the market which helps investigators in doing this, but there is no off-the-shelf tool available for handwriting analysis as such. There are some traditional techniques. I'll discuss about that as well. So when we speak about handwritten document forensics, there are three different phases, types of analysis. One is handwriting analysis, right? So if you see the middle and the right images or figures here below, so you can see handwritings are different. So if you see some stresses, like if you follow the pointer two-way, you see on the left-hand document B is written and the right-hand document B is also written, but the writing of B is different. Or if you follow the pointer 1B, so U is written like this, and in the right-hand document, U is written differently, or it may be W. Okay, so the writing styles are little bit different. So that is called handwriting analysis. Okay. Similarly, there can be ink edging or document edging analysis. So when at what time the document is created, maybe the document was created, a document which was created 10 years back will appear very different than a document which was just created few months back. Right, so edging analysis of the ink or even the piece of paper. So that is another kind of handwritten document forensics. And the third one is pen ink analysis, right? So by analyzing the pen ink, we want to conclude whether there is some overwriting here, like it is shown in the left-hand side image, or maybe we want to say that someone has written a note, right? Or someone has filled up a form or checklist, like we have seen in the initial example, right? And someone else might have modified it or added some new contents or might have modified it. So using similar looking pen ink, but definitely it's a different pen or different ink. So identification or differentiation of pen ink is another area. So in pen ink analysis, we have we have to identify the overwriting. We have to identify or differentiate between pen inks, whether one single pen is used or multiple pens are used. So are these points clear to all of you? So I'm just trying to give you an introduction of the domain itself, because this domain, many of you may not be familiar with this particular domain before going to what kind of machine learning based techniques are there and what we should look for actually. So the categorization of different kinds of forensic analysis on handwritten documents, though it's a very rough categorization, one or two more categories may be there. So is it clear? Now our work focuses on identification or differentiation of pen inks. So basically, as we have seen in the previous example,
Sir, sorry for interruption.
yes.
Sir, the slides are not changing, I guess.
Oh, so which slide you are looking at now? I don't know why is this problem. Let me stop sharing and share it once again. So now is it changing?
Sir, the slide didn't started yet.
Oh. try a different approach. Let me share my entire window or entire screen. Now, are you able to see the slides?
No, sir, not yet, actually.
Is it loading?
I think it is taking some time. Last time we could see it last time. Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay. So some of the slides then you might have missed. Have you seen this slide? Handwritten document forensics is the title of the slide.
No.
No, sir. No.
If you give a little bit more time. Now?
Yes, this slide is visible. Last time we did not see it. Now it is visible.
Now if I change the slide?
Yes, it's changing.
Okay, then the problem is when I'm making it full screen, perhaps. Then I'll play in this mode. I'll run in this mode. Is
This
that
is
fine?
also understandable.
Yeah. So I was discussing this slide. Perhaps you have not seen this slide, right? So different kinds of handwritten document forensics, forensic approaches like handwriting analysis or ink aging or document aging analysis, right? Pen ink analysis, right? Whether there is overwriting, we can identify through pen ink analysis, or whether two different pens have been used. So initially the document was created using a pen and then later using another pen. The document has been tampered, like we have seen in the first example here. So can you see the check image now? My screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay, thank you for your feedback. Right, so we want to address this particular problem, that identifying or differentiating pen inks through pen ink analysis. Now, for a while, let us look at traditional ink analysis techniques. So traditionally, there are a few categories of techniques. One of them is called thin layer chromatography, right? So now, what is thin layer chromatography? Do not ask me, because I am not expert in this kind of techniques. I come from image processing or machine learning background. So I have just quoted the definition of it from a particular website, the link I have given. So basically, it's a separating non-volatile compounds by their rate of movement through the stationary phase. A thin layer of absorbent material, usually silica gel or something else, aluminum oxide or something are used, so coated onto the glass plate. So something like that. So basically, here the document that is being investigated, that will be dropped or dipped into some kind of solution. Okay, and there are some chemical reaction takes place, and based on that chemical reaction, certain colors are coming out, which we can see, right? So this is what thin layer chromatography is. There are several papers even on using thin layer chromatography on document analysis, ink analysis in documents, handwritten documents. So here I have just citing one of them. Okay, so that is one approach. Then similarly, there are other techniques like what in forensic science is called as high performance liquid chromatography, or even infrared spectrum analysis of diffuse reflectance. Now the problem is, all of these techniques, including the thin layer chromatography in the previous slide, all of these techniques are destructive in nature. So as we have seen in the previous slide, you can see this slide, thin layer chromatography. Now the slide is clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and my
Yes.
voice is also clear. Okay. So as you can understand that the handwritten document that we are investigating, we have to dip into some kind of chemical As a result, the document will be destroyed. Similarly, for other two approaches involving high performance liquid chromatography and so infrared spectrum analysis, and these are traditional forensic investigation techniques in document forensics, and those techniques are there from age old, right? So because document forensics is one of the very old field itself, right? And a lot of those chemical analysis based techniques, chemical plus the reflectance of light after those chemical reactions are being captured and analyzed and all. Okay. There comes a little bit of definitely capturing the signal, light signal, and then analyzing, maybe using machine learning techniques. Some of these recent papers are doing, and so on. Right. So those are traditional techniques, but the main drawback of these techniques is they are destructive in nature. So the image get destroyed. Let us say now one case where one person has deposited a bank check in the bank counter, right? And before forwarding that check or before processing that check, definitely the person or the staff in the bank will like to analyze whether the contents of the check are tampered or not, right? Now, as of today, if we go to banks, they will just go by their understanding or their experience in handling these kind of documents. They just manually look into the contents and try to figure out, right? But as one of the initial check images I was showing, those check images can be or the checks can be tampered in such a way that the ink in the modified portion or tampered portion appear very similar to the ink in which was originally there or originally used, right? So now a bank person cannot use these kind of ink analysis techniques, traditional ink analysis techniques, because those are destructive nature. Check image will be destroyed. It will not be of any use further. Then there are a set of non-destructive techniques that are also coming up based on hyperspectral imaging or Raman spectroscopy and all. So again, there are a lot of papers in each one of these fields, and I have just cited one from each category. So, but the problem with these kind of techniques is special imaging equipments or image acquisition devices are needed. Imaging devices are needed, right? May not be available with every agency. So that's the drawback of these kind of non-destructive techniques. Then we wanted to come up with techniques which can analyze based on images being captured using normal document scanners. So we have a document, handwritten document to analyze. We want to scan it using a normal scanner which takes the image of the document in visible light spectrum. We get the image and we want to analyze the image to tell whether the document has been or the document has been tampered, or whether rather more specifically whether a different pen is being used in some portion of the document, handwritten document. Is it clear? So that's the problem that we are taking up, and from this moment onwards, we will be discussing only those kind of approaches where an image of the handwritten document will be available with us, which is captured using our standard or normal scanners, where we can, or even we can think of taking picture of that image using a visible light spectrum, using standard cameras, maybe in our mobile phone and all. Because we wanted the technique should be more handy. It should be, the technology should be easily available to all the agencies wherever it's required. Any questions so far? So there are few image analysis based techniques which I was referring to, images captured in using normal scanners are already available in literature. So this slide you are able to see. My screen is visible now, right?
Yes, yes, it is
Yes,
visible.
sir.
So again, there are not many papers though in this space, though we try to do as exhaustive a survey as possible. One of the initial papers we were getting around 2005 or 2007. So from the same group, there are two papers, one in 2005 and one from 2007. So again, these kind of approaches, as this slide is showing, that there are two kinds of approaches. One is detecting addition of new words. Suppose in the document already few words are written, and someone just adds few sentences or words in the document. So detecting addition of words. And the second kind of approach is alteration of existing words. Okay. Now, so one of the oldest approaches, which I'm citing here, is published in 2007 in the conference ICTR. So this document analysis and recognition is one of the very premier conferences in the space of document analysis and recognition, right? So this paper came from Professor Chakravarti Bhagavati's group in University of Hyderabad. So what they did is they took from each of the words they are investigating, they are extracting statistical features. Few of the statistical features they took, like circular color movements, coarseness, contrast, saturation, weighted mean, and variance of hue, right? And they are extracting these features from HSI color space representation. So for those who are familiar with image processing, so we know that there are different color models available, like RGB, HSI, CI Lab, CI, YCBC, different color models are available to represent color values, right? So they were working on HSI color space, and they extracted few statistical features from a pair of words which they are investigating whether they are written using same pen or different pen. And then they are taking difference between those statistical features extracted from two different words. And based on the difference, they are trying to say whether they are written using a single pen or two different pens are being used. So it's a thresholding based approach there. And threshold was determined based on exhaustive study on a certain collection of documents or document images, right? So similarly, one more paper I would like to cite here is one of our paper only from 2016, which was published in IJCNN. So where we were extracting mean intensity of the color values in the ink pixels, right? And local binary pattern, LBP is one popular texture feature. Similarly, Gabor responses, Gabor filter responses, and all in the RGB color space representation of the ink pixels. And then we are forming histogram of those features, and then features extracted from two different words. We are calculating histogram differences for each of the features, and then we are summing it up. And then finally, we are going for a thresholding based approach to differentiate whether two words are written using same pen or they are using different pens. Similarly, the third one in this list, as I mentioned earlier, there are different kinds of approaches. This approach speaks about alteration within the existing word. Earlier two approaches are dealing with whether in a document there are multiple words and a pair of such words, whether they are written by same pen or different pen. So in the second category, it's alteration of the existing word, right? So this paper came from Professor N.R. Pal and Professor Bhabatosh Chandra from ISI, their research group. So it's a 2012 paper, IEEE transaction paper. Basically, they were extracting few legendary moments, the geometric moments and all, and GLCM, gray level co-occurrence matrix. And once again, GLCM is one popular texture feature which is like LBP or Gapor, that is also being widely used in numerous applications, right? So what they are doing is after extracting the features, they are feeding it to different classifiers. So they took 3 different classifiers: K nearest neighbor, multi-layer perceptron, and support vector machine. And they did experiment of little bit feature selection and all those things also. So this is another kind of approach. Okay. Now, so there are a few other papers. I am just citing 3 here. But what is important here to observe is how do we encode the characteristic of ink? Which feature should we use? As we can see, the different papers are using different features. There are several ways of encoding textures. So what is texture? Texture basically represents the variation of values in a neighborhood, right? Intensity values or color values. So that's what we wanted to encode, basically to characterize inks, and based on that we wanted to differentiate whether there is difference between 2 different inks and all, right? But what is noticeable here is each paper or each research initiative is dealing with different texture features, right? And once the texture features are extracted, they are going for threshold link based. Threshold link based approaches are a little bit old ones. All the recent ones are also coming up with classification based approaches, right? And in that space, a lot of works are currently coming up from IIT ISM Dhanbad, from Showman's group. So they after extracting features in different ways, they are feeding it into classifiers, and they are comparatively analyzing, okay, this classifier does good, this classifier compared to other papers, and so on, right? So this was the literature. We started this work around 2017, and this was the literature which was available to us at that point of time. Additionally, a few other papers were also there, but mostly of the works of this kind of nature. Right. So let us formulate the problem statement now. So basically, our problem is to detect whether a handwritten document has been tampered, like I'm showing in this. I have taken the same example which I showed initially. So few words have been added in this handwritten check. So whether the check has been tampered or not. Right. So now the main question, there are several questions that we should address. One is whether we should treat it as pen ink identification problem or pen ink differentiation problem. So by that identification problem, I mean we want to associate the ink with one particular brand of pen, okay, or that's pen ink identification. So there are n number of pen brands available in the market, and there is a document available with us. Image of the document is available with us, and by looking at the color values of the ink pixels, we want to associate that word with one particular pen, right? So that is pen ink identification problem. Whereas pen ink differentiation problem means that we are investigating a pair of words and whether those 2 words are written by same pen or different pen, right? So that is pen ink differentiation problem. So according to you, which should be a better way of formulating this problem? Whether we should formulate it as an identification problem or a differentiation problem?
Sir, I think we can address both the features at the same time.
Both kinds of problems, you are saying identification as differentiation. Okay, so in my opinion, I felt that pen ink differentiation is better problem, a better way to formulate it. The reason is like this. Let's say, because at the end you will be doing classification, right? And you'll be using some kind of machine learning models, be it neural network based or traditional machine learning models. And from a large set of training samples you will build your model. right? And then when you feel that you have sufficiently trained a particular model, you'll deploy it for practical usage, right? Now, for an identification problem, let's assume that there are 100 different brands of pen available in the market, and you have purchased those pens, and you have created data sets, handwritten document data set using those pens, and you are training your model, right? Now, once the model is sufficiently trained or reasonably trained, and you are deploying this model for practical usage, and let's say some investigating agencies using your model, now tomorrow they will come up with a document which is created using a pen which was not available at the time of training. So it is the 101st pen which was not used during training or creation of your data set, right? So then your classification problem will not be able to associate the word written using this pen, may not be able to associate. If it's a closed set identification problem that yes, it has to be one of those available classes, then definitely it will misclassify because it's not one of the known pens, right? And if it's open set identification problem, then it will just lead to, then also it may not be able to correctly recognize that this is unknown pen or something. Even if it identifies this is a new pen we have not seen during the training phase, but how you solve it, because there are n number of such pens will be available or will come in market in future, which where your model will fail. Then you have to freshly train your model or retrain your model using those pens. So rather, if we formulate it as a penning differentiation problem, then irrespective of what set of pens are being used, we are not we are considering the difference of feature values, the difference of texture feature values of two pens, and if the difference is being classified. So if either the difference is not large enough to so that we can conclude that these two words are written using same pen, or the difference is little bit large enough, which will say that these two words are written using different pens, right? So in my opinion, penning differentiation will be a better, will be able to generalize this problem better. Okay. So that's why we have gone with penning differentiation approach, and then it becomes a two-class classification problem. So you extract features from two different words, and you extract features, texture features, and then you feed the differences of those texture features to a classifier, and the classifier tells you whether those two words are written using same pen or different pen, right? So that is one approach, the first point. The second point is there are other additional challenges, like if the document is having this kind of complex color and complex background, like what we get normally in check images. So segregating foreground penning or pixels belonging to pennings from background pixels that need to be taken care of. Then the next question is which features to represent penning. So what kind of texture features will you use? Statistical texture features, GLCM, Gabor, motif texture features, or even LBP, and so many. Even if we consider LBP, there are varieties of LBP features. From GLCM itself, we derive 13 pairs of statistical features from GLCM itself. Other kind of statistical features are also there, right? Then the other question is which color model to select, because three papers that we have cited in one of the earlier slides. So three papers, one paper represents the color values in HSI space. Our previous work in 2016, where we use RGB color space, whereas from ISI Calcutta, that Professor Ener Pal's group, in their work, they used YCBCR space. So which color model or color space should be appropriate to represent penning? Or is this this one, whether the selection of color model itself is there's some problem to consider or not. That's also a concern. Then what kind of machine learning techniques, what kind of classifiers will you use, whether you'll use shallow learning where you extract handcrafted features like we are discussing so far, right, and fed to these kind of classifiers, or we go for deep learning based approaches where we need not worry about what features the model automatically extracts and all, right, or basically which classifiers to use. And more importantly, when we started this work in 2016 or 2017, where is the data set available to do these kind of experiments? Ability to publicly available data set was a big concern. There was no data set publicly available. And some of the papers that we are getting in this space are, they use their own kind of data set at that point of time they created, but they did not made it public. They did not make it public. So that's another concern, right? So are these problems or sub-problems clear? Or do you envisage any other problem which I have not factored in my talk today or in our work so far? Is it fine? At least you are able to understand what we are speaking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me check if something is in chat now. Now, during that time, we started creating an initial data set. And this data set today, we published it as IDRBT check image data set. It's available publicly for download in this URL. So what we did as part of this data set creation is we collected 112 check leaves from 4 different bands representing diverse background, texture, and color. We took 7 blue and 7 black ink pens, total 14 pens, and we engaged 9 volunteers to fill up the checks, right? So basically we are getting 14 to 9, so 126 pen volunteer combinations. So we are saying that each volunteer will use each one of those pens, right? To avoid biasness of how one particular volunteer writes and all. Then each check is written by 2 volunteers using 2 different pens, because we want those kind of checks where checks will be tampered. So in order to simulate that, we are saying that initially the check will be filled up with 1 volunteer using 1 pen, and another volunteer will add few more words in that check, like one of the example from this data set I have already shown you. So one more volunteer will add few more words there using a different pen. But when it's done, we are trying to see if it was written originally using black pen, then definitely that's how a fraudster also will approach, right? A check which was originally filled up using black pen, fraudster will not take a blue pen to fill up or change the content, right? So if it is originally filled with black pen, then another black pen will be used to tamper it. If it's originally filled using blue pen, another blue pen will be used to tamper it. And when we are doing it, even there are enough variations in the blue inks itself if you use 7 different pens in the market. So while doing this, as per our understanding, we try to modify using a pen whose ink color is matching as close visually, at least it is matching with the color ink that was used initially. That's why when I showed this problem, so that much care was taken during creation of this data set. That's why when I showed this problem on the first slide, whether you could differentiate or not, rightly you could not differentiate. All right. So basically what we are getting is 7C2. The suffixes and all are not typed correctly by me. I did not work on the fonts. So it's basically 7C2 combination. Yes, 2 into 7C2. So 42 possible combinations of blue and black pen pairs we are getting. Right. So why 42? So 7C2 is 21. So out of 7 black pens, a pair of black pens are being used to create or fill a particular check. Always 2 pens are being used. So 7C2 and 1 set for blue and 1 set for black. So 2 into 7C2. Check leaves are and all the check leaves, 112 check leaves are scanned using a standard scanner using 300 dpi. So that is a data set which you can access if you are interested to work on this space. Moving forward, now the next question was, how do we segregate foreground ink pixels from background? Because we have taken by default the images. If it's a simple piece of handwritten words or text in a white paper or even ruled lines or all, the background was not that much complicated. But the way we have created the data set using check images, by default the background is a little bit complex texture is appearing there, and lot of colors and all. So, but we did not do enough research in this space. We did not focus on this actually. So what we did is very simple. We did k-means binarization using value of k is equal to 2 because we wanted to segregate foreground and background. So it's basically k-means clustering of the color values of each pixel using k is equal to 2. And then, so once it is done, we get a binary image. Now in a check image you can see these kind of horizontal lines, right? So these are called micro lettering lines because these are not straight lines actually. These are in very teeny font. The bank names are written. So it is Axis Bank check. So axis will be written in very teeny font. So these are called micro lettering lines. So these micro lettering lines have to be removed. Why? Because let's say we are investigating whether these two words in the pay name portion, whether they are written using same pen or not. So basically we would like to crop those portions from the image. When we crop, then these micro lettering lines which are very adjacent to these words and written words, they will also come. So we wanted to remove those things because we wanted to remove that those printed inks should not come into when we derive the features. So this micro lettering line was removed using horizontal projection profile of the binary check image. Then removal of noisy small connected components. There are small noisy connected components right there. By using some connected component based filtering, we did that. When we did that, actually you understand that 20 is written there. So why? It intersects this micro lettering line. Now when we remove the micro lettering line plus we remove other additional components, so it leaves the word disconnected, right? So in order to close those gaps once again, we do certain morphological processing, and based on that we reconstructed the binary check image, and that's considered as template. And using that template from this input check image, we get this image at the right hand side. So basically we're doing background suppression. So all those identified background pixels, we are assigning their values as 255. And we are retaining original color values for the foreground pixels because we want to analyze those foreground pixels only, right? So again, once again, we did not do much experiments in this space. Whatever we got, then from there onwards, we are moving our building our experiments, right? So another important characteristic or consideration is how do we evaluate evaluation framework. Why is this important? Because once again, we will train our machine learning models using a set of those 14 pens which we have seen, right? Though we are formulating this time as a penning differentiation problem, but there may be some bias. As any machine learning experiment or model, there will be bias towards the data set that is being originally used to train the model, right? So that's the problem. So that's why today you see in many of some of the areas people have started working on experiments involving cross data sets. So one machine learning model is built on data set 1 and they are evaluated on completely different data set 2, and those kind of experiments are coming in forefront in many of the areas nowadays. Because we know that machine learning models, the trained models that depend on the data set that we're training. So, but we have only one piece of reasonably good data set. So, what we can do with that? So, we have to make strategy of doing experiment. What we are doing is, so basically these are 112 check images, and from the check images we are extracting feature vectors. Okay, I have not yet told what feature vectors we have used. I'll come to that. So we are extracting those texture feature vectors. Then what we are doing is leave one pen out strategy, leave one and leave two. So here the idea is initially there are 14 pens with which the data set was created. Now let's say a pen pi, right? So all the words that are written using pi, so all the checks where pen pi is being used, that is left out from the training. That is left out from the training. So all the check images where pen pi is being used, that is left out. And the collection of those check images, so let's say out of 112 images, there are 10 checks where a particular pen, say pen 1 is being used, right? So those 10 checks are being left out. And basically the feature vectors extracted from those check images have been left out. We are not leaving out basically. So we are creating, using those, we are creating an unknown test set, unknown pen test set, unknown pen test set. So pen is not known to us, right? And rest of it we are considering as our remaining data, right? And then remaining data, we are partitioning it to 10 folds, and we are training using 9 of those folds, and the 10th fold is being used for validation. That's also basically known test set. So that's we are doing 10-fold cross validation in order to remove some kind of biasness on the training set that we are using, right? On the other hand, as I have told, this unknown pen test set which have been left out for evaluation of the model. So a new pen may be seen at practical deployment of the solution, which was not seen during training a machine learning model. So that's the assumption based on which we have created this. So we have done two kinds of experiment: leave one pen out, where we are leaving out images or feature vectors where one particular pen, say pen I, is being used, and in another case we are leaving out images where two specific pens, pi and pj, are being used. So that is leave two pens out strategy. Is it clear so far? Let us move forward. Now, coming to our particular model, first model that we came up with is basically we are extracting, or basically we are manually cropping two words using a minimum bounding rectangle from the check image or handwritten document we are investigating. So from these two words, k-means binarization and all those things will be done, and then basically all those pre-processing that I have told in the initial state, that will be done. And statistical features are being extracted from each of the color channels. We are using RGB color space here in this model, and we are taking absolute difference of individual features, and that difference vector we are feeding to a MLP, right, in order to classify whether the pair of words, word 1 and word 2, are written using same pen or different pens. So we are formulating it as a 2-class classification problem. We are using multilayer perceptron, as I have told. These are the statistical features we are taking: mean, variance, skewness, kurtosis, mean absolute deviation in each of the RGB color channels. So 5 statistical features for each of these 3 colors. So we get 15 features from each word. So we are taking feature-wise differences, absolute differences coming from 2 different features, coming from 2 different words, right? That difference vector is fed to the classifier. A classifier is trained using that, and the experiments were done using the framework that I discussed in earlier slide. So this initial work was published in our paper in PREMI 2017, which was held in ISI Kolkata in 2017. Any question here so far? Okay, let us move forward to my next slide. Now, what we observed is our initial model was performing better than majority of those existing models at that point of time. Though the model that came up from ISI Kolkata, from Professor N.R. Pal and Professor Bhagavatas Chandra's group, that PEP model was performing better than our model on our IWT check image dataset. Okay, so that IEEE transaction TIFS paper, which I cited in one of my earlier slides, that was still performing better than ours. One key observation was, so basically, as I have told several times, that each model uses different handcrafted features, right? It may be due to that. It may be that they are using a feature set which performs or which encodes the in characteristic better than the simple statistical features that we are using, right? That could be the case. But another key observation was that we used RGB color model, whereas they have used YCBCR color model. Okay. Then we thought in a particular direction. The question came to our mind is, then color model is important, because color model indicates how the color values are being represented, and whatever features, texture features you are deriving, that is based on the matrix of values that you get, right? So those matrix of values in those pixels, so that those values are different in different color models. So if a particular color you represent in RGB color model, you get a triplet of value. If you represent it in YIQ color model, you get another triplet of value, right? Values. So that's why we thought let's do an experiment on color model selection, and let's investigate which color model should be best one for this task. And then we have did the same experiment. No, not the same experiment. So we selected initially 7 color models as listed here: RGB, YIQ, YCBCR, CI, XYZ, CI Lab, CI LUV, and HSV color models. And these are the color models. Some of these color models are being used by some of the earlier models. Right? Now, we observed the histogram of color values of the words as they are written using different. They are represented using different color models, and based on some color model selection experiment that we have reported in our IET image processing paper. So we have found we follow 2 different model selection techniques, and in both the techniques it's leading to a single color model, YCBCR color model, as the most suitable model to differentiate penning values if they are written using 2 different pens, right? So then our same initial model based on those 5 statistical features and MLP, we now use the same model on the color values represented in YCBCR color space. And now we observe that these simple 5 statistical features, as they are extracting those statistical features from YCBCR color space now, they are outperforming the Kumar et al.'s model, earlier model, right? So so that gave an answer. Okay, then color model selection is also important, right? So, and that's perhaps why Kumar et al. Were getting better result, because they were also using YCBCR color model. So this entire experiment was reported in our IET image processing paper. If you are interested, you may look into it, right? Now, there are still more open questions. Which texture features to consider? Because every paper is, every set of authors, or even from a single group, different papers are coming. They are just experimenting with different texture features and try to see whether the new model that they are developing is performing better than existing models and all those kind of things. And definitely, you extract texture features, you feed into some classifier, you will get some numbers, some accuracy values, right? So if you're, by chance, if you're getting a set of numbers or set of accuracy values which are better than known accuracy values or accuracy values for the known models, then you can publish your paper perhaps. All right. So which texture features? That's a big question. There is no answer to that as of now. Now, there are studies involving feature selection also. So we can line up all possible texture features, and we can have a very huge or very large feature vector. And then we can apply feature selection techniques to find a suitable subset of features, and we can do all those kind of experiments. Then the problem is related to the classifier. Even if we use our traditional machine learning techniques, even traditional neural network based approaches also, and classical machine learning techniques. So which classifier, which model to take, and so on. That's one question. And when we are thinking about that question with additional headache of which set of handcrafted features we have to take, then why not use, why don't we use CNN kind of models and see what the performance comes. Right. So we also did some experiments on using these kind of deep learning models, where we basically how I differentiate between shallow learning and deep learning is, in shallow learning we are extracting handcrafted features and we are feeding it to the classifier or to the model. Whereas in deep learning, we need not worry about which features to extract. It's just the model itself extracts perhaps a suitable set of features, and they go on with, as a user of the model or as a developer of the model, even we need not think about it, right? So CNN being a classic example of those kind of things. But so the question is, why CNN? Because no need to think about handcrafted features, right? But the problem was to deploy CNN was our data set was small. Okay. Because in this work here, we did a little deviation from the earlier line of work, because in this particular work, we are trying to detect whether a particular word has been altered by writing few more characters like this. So ripe, unripe. So 8, 18. So if you use this kind of prefixes and suffixes with a word, it changes the meaning of the word. So we wanted to capture that. So this word was captured using a single image, right? So that image is being fed to the CNN. Whereas in earlier work, where we are considering a pair of words into different parts of the document, perhaps, whether they are written. So those two words were not combined naturally as a part of single image, right? Because those we are cropping from different portions. So initially we did not apply CNN there. Okay. So there are some, instead of that linear architecture in traditional CNNs, different architectures are coming up, and now we are working on one such model for that problem also. But let's in this slide, let us speak about this. So here our problem was whether this kind of additions of characters in the single word has been made or not. Even this can be, similar kind of models can be used to detect overwriting as well. So, but again, there was no publicly available data set. So the student in his lab with his friends, he created few handwritten words in a white piece of paper, and he has collected a small data set, right? So as the data set was small, training the CNN was difficult. So we went for transfer learning based approaches. Okay, so where we can use pre-trained architectures. So we used two pre-trained architecture, AlexNet and VGC16, and those architectures were used with minor adjustments in the last few layers, basically the fine-tuning, using the small data set which was created for fine-tuning and testing. And based on experiments, what we observed that AlexNet performed better than VGC16, as well as it performed better than two other shallow CNNs. So CNNs whose depth was not much, right? The specification of those two shallow CNNs you can get in our CVIP paper, which was a conference paper published based on this work in CVIP 2019. Okay. So any question at this point of time? Was it clear, or you want to give any suggestion?
Yes, Shamim.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, question is there.
Yes.
Sir, during the course of this experiment, which features were significant, sir? The CNN features or the statistical features?
Okay. So actually, we have not done the works, because that comparison, because earlier work, which was statistical feature based, that was used from a perspective where two different words were compared, word 1 and word 2, right? And features are extracted from there. And this kind of classical approaches or shallow learning approaches we applied there, right? So there we did not find a scope to apply CNN because those are not part of, and obviously the recent CNN models that are speaking about even Y-shaped architecture actually. So those kind of things we have not studied yet. We are doing that experiment at present, right?
And sir, didn't you use data
Yes.
augmentation and all for extending the data set,
Yes. That's what is in my next slide actually. Okay. So initially we did this experiment on the small data set, and then we got some result. Now later we thought that we are using transfer learning and all. Basically, main bottleneck here is the availability of large data sets, right? So we thought of synthetically creating a large data set for handwritten document forensics, large data set, handwritten word data set, right? So there, in my opinion, there are two different kinds of approaches in which we could work. One is applying generative adversarial network kind of things to models to create new samples and all. Okay, but there the attempt would be definitely to create samples, new samples, which will be similar to, which will bear similar in characteristics as with the handwritten words initial inputs, right? So that experiment, we have not gone in that direction. Rather, what we did is we have collected character samples, handwritten character samples. Like in this diagram, we are showing that someone has written A using a particular pen, and he has written perhaps 200 times. Now, in a white background, and that page is scanned, and from that image, a particular. Basically, we are interested to take one particular alphabet, okay, one particular alphabet, because the way we are formatting is a word is a concatenation of alphabets, right? So though there are a lot of papers available and a lot of data sets available on which have been synthetically created, but those data sets are there for analyzing or carrying out handwriting analysis kind of experiments. But here, as we wanted to do ink analysis, so those kind of data sets were not available, because the data sets which were there for handwriting analysis kind of experiments, they might have been done with a single pen, or those kind of pen ink related information was not available for those data sets, right? So we thought of creating this from scratch. What we are doing, we are converting this image using we are converting this color image to gray, and finally K-means binarization to get the ink pixels, right? Using that template, we are doing background suppression. So all the background pixels have been made white, and only color pixel values are retained. And then a connected component-based minimum bounding box we are taking to identify or to segregate each alphabet in a series of alphabets written in this particular page. So similarly, this is a series of 200 A's perhaps written in a single page using a single volunteer. Similarly, other volunteers also were used to write the similar alphabet, A, and all. Similarly, all the alphabets up to A to Z all are created, right? So little bit initial effort was required to, we asked volunteers to contribute or to write using different pens and all. Okay. Now, after that, what we are doing is, let us, as I told, let's take two examples. One is we are creating a word unplanned, or another word misfit. So why we are creating this kind of words? Because if the original word is planned and someone just adds un as prefix, then the meaning of the word changes. Or similarly, if someone writes feet and if someone adds miss, then meaning of the word changes, right? So we from a source we have only collected those kind of words where we can, by using some suffix or prefix, we could change the meaning of the word, and we concentrated on creating those kind of words and creating experiment data sets where initial part of the word, main part of the word, say planned, will be written in one pen and will be written in another pen, right? Because all these individual characters are written using different pens, so you have to select. Now there are problems. I think I did not highlight this problem here in this slide. So we cannot simply concatenate these character images like this. We cannot simply concatenate, because if we concatenate, you can see here basically initially we are doing a bottom alignment based concatenation. So all these individual small matrices for containing each image. So we took a bigger matrix, and inside that we copied these matrices there. We put these copied those matrix values. It's here. So we are taking a baseline and we are aligning the bottommost row of each sub image in the same baseline. So we get something like here, right? The problem is, you see the P is going up, but we don't write P like this. So if we are just doing based on the bottom alignment, we get an handwritten image, word image like this, synthetically generated handwritten word image like this, unplanned or misfit. But this is a wrong example because we don't write P. P should go down, right, when we write. So then we did two kinds of adjustment. One is height-based adjustment, and another is zone-based. Zone-based adjustment means we the English small case letters we write in 3 zones. If you remember in our pre-primary schooling, right? We were taught to write A, B, C in a ruled textbook or ruled notebook, where when we write starting write English alphabets, so they are divided into 3 zones, right? So similarly, based on which 1 or 2 zones a particular alphabet is taking, so we know that, right? So P takes the middle zone and lower zone, L takes the upper zone and middle zone, and so on. A only takes the middle zone. So we know that. Based on that knowledge, so we do zone-based adjustment, and also as each character image is written independently, their heights also may not be same. So similar height-based adjustments are also done, and finally we get a handwritten, synthetically generated handwritten word like this. So here we actually we do not process the in pixel values. In pixel values we do not process. So we for the entire operation we retain the same color values for the in pixels. So that means we are able to keep the ink related characteristics of these words, right? So that's the beauty, because when we use GAN, to some extent we can control, but we cannot fully control what comes out, right? So only the basically discriminator tells us how much modification is required and all, and based on the discriminator performance, once again we go on adjusting this more generator and discriminator both, right? So in GAN framework, so there may be new color values may be generated and all those things. We don't know, but yes, we can do that experiment in future, and we can see how it comes, right? So this is how we generate, and then a very large data set can be created like that, and in fact it's created very large data set, because now once we have this initial set of alphabet images, now we can combine any number of them, and perhaps we can create all possible English words, or even we can create because the algorithm will take care of concatenation of the sub images to generate and all those things, right? So now to validate the newly generated synthetic dataset, we have once again used the architectures like AlexNet, VGG16 and VGG19. Okay, but instead of using pre-trained architecture now, we've trained these architectures from scratch using this newly built dataset. Okay, so instead of pre-trained AlexNet or pre-trained VGG16, VGG19, we trained it from scratch using this large dataset that we have created. You can access the dataset here. Okay. And performance of these freshly trained architectures are similar to their pre-trained version, because again the small dataset that we used to earlier experiment in our CBIP paper, using which we if you recall our initial experiment where you use this AlexNet and VGG16 pre-trained architectures, and we fine-tuned this in the context of our problem by using a small dataset which we have created, and we evaluated on the small dataset similarly. So once initially we trained this architectures here using this large dataset. So once again, fine-tuning was done using the small dataset like earlier, because we want to do apple-to-apple comparison. And then evaluate on the same small dataset. And now we found that these datasets, the models which are freshly trained using our dataset, their performance are similar with the models which were pre-trained versions of the models, right? So hence, the validity or legitimacy of the dataset is being established. So this entire generation of synthetic dataset for this experiment we have published in IEEE Access in 2021. So if you are interested, you can look into the paper which has already come online, and the dataset, if you are interested in this topic, you can download the dataset and do the experiments. Any questions so far?
Sir, how
Yes.
did the GAN generated dataset perform compared to the traditional?
You can do the experiment. We have not done the GAN related experiments here actually.
So yes, GAN is a good idea here.
Yes, definitely. GAN is performing very good in many of the areas. So similarly, in this field also we can
Sir, but
try out.
but the GAN generated dataset are identical in some sense, right, sir?
Identical?
In
No,
some sense, like the images which are
Yes,
generated
definitely. So basically in GAN what happens is there are two modules, right? Generator and discriminator. So
discriminator.
discriminator is trying to discriminate between the real sample and fake sample, and if it's able to successfully discriminate, then you know that your generated samples are not as close to the legitimate samples or original samples. So then you refine the parameters, and it goes on iteration to build this. So that's fine. You can do the experiment, but only thing is we have to see whether still ink characteristics are written, because here in this particular work we did not touch the ink pixel color. So it was whatever ink pixel color in the initially scanned document. So same color is written here. We have definitely will get a large data set using GAN also, and perhaps we have to do the experiments. I cannot comment at this stage. But again, that's a good avenue to explore. Any other question? So finally, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Soumen Bagh, who is assistant professor at IIT ISM Dhanbad, because all these works that we have done, both of us have jointly done this work, what we have presented so far. And Prabhat is a PhD student of ours who has done all these things. So credit should go to Prabhat. I'm just presenting his work.